Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Brian and Ryan Live. Today we're going to be talking about the rapidly increasing housing prices affecting buyers, sellers, and renters alike. So Ryan, would you like to lead off this discussion today?
Yeah, sure. So housing shortage, obviously it's a huge issue in Hardin County and everywhere in the nation ultimately, but we're going to get into the details in the Hardin County. I think most people can understand that whether you're a buyer or, looking to rent, that there is a massive shortage when it comes to housing right now. And these are due to, this has been an ongoing issue probably since 2018. It was severely impacted during COVID because interest rates got so low. When interest rates got low, a lot of extra people got into the market that may not normally be in the market, and gobbled up, all of the inventory, which is just supply, the amount of homes on the market. Yeah. And we've had a hard time rebounding. So you've got way more demand or potential buyers than what you actually do the supply on the market. This is also why there won't be any crash. This is why a lot of people are thinking, well, home prices increase so rapidly and so quickly, this has to fall, right? It has to drop out like this. That's kind of the general, I'm going to call it a misconception here with our current market. The difference in 2008 was there was a massive amount of supply. There was an oversupply versus the demand. Yeah. And so when you took a lot of those kind of bogus loan programs out of the market in 2008, you didn't have all this fictional manufactured demand or buyers in the market, and so you had a lot more supply. This is why home prices dropped. You don't have that situation. There's no way to catch up, and what tells us this is housing formation. So the biggest thing is housing formations is basically they do all this data, collect all this data to see people that are actually building new families and forming households. Basically, that's the number one predictor of home buyers, right? Like most people, especially single males, they don't really buy homes. Single females definitely do, but so household formations are kind of the biggest tell of, hey, this is gonna be our future. Well, household formations were substantially higher in 2023 than what the actual new build or new construction was. So the only other way to free up to build more inventory supply on the market are to build homes, right? You can create inventory by sellers selling homes, but those sellers have to become buyers, so it ends up being like a net zero, right? Yeah. So I think this is where you're seeing the problem. So this is intensified in the Hardin County market because we have so much migration coming into the area.
A lot of economic growth.
Exactly.
We have Nucor up in Meade County. We've got the Blue Oval SK down in Glendale, and right here in the middle we got Elizabethtown, Radcliffe, Vine Grove, Ronnieville. Yeah. And so
the military, forget about military. I feel like they've picked up or intensified the amount of people coming in military. So that you throw all of that in the mix, man, it's a recipe for I don't want to say disaster, but it's a recipe for a major shortage. We already had a shortage without all that economic demand. Then you pour all that on top of it. It was just fuel for the fire. And I think people are really feeling that right now, especially renters. Unfortunately, rent has skyrocketed. I mean, you're going to probably can see that continue quite a bit until they build some new, large apartment complexes. But on the home buyer side, that is really where, what will really open up the market for supply is when we're seeing rates. The mortgage rate trend, it's trending downward. It's not going to just fall out. We're never going to see COVID rates again. But you're going to see this downtrend this year that I think is going to put, it's probably going to put interest rates into the fives, but that's also going to cause a major tidal wave of buyers. When everybody sees something with a 5 in front of it, they're going to come running into the market, a stampede. I do think that's going to happen. I know some people think that might be, that hand is being overplayed, but I think that you're going to see some of that.
There's definitely a lot of pent up demand with buyers. As a real estate agent myself, and you're the lender, that what I'm seeing is the number of sellers is down, not the number of buyers. So the pent up demand for the number of people who want to buy a home is still there. They just can't find the home that's right for them.
Correct.
So the inventory is holding them back.
Yes.
And just to go back a little bit you mentioned 2008 and the housing crisis and how this is different. One other aspect of how this is different is after that housing crisis, a lot of builders went away. Yeah. And we have not been, as a nation, building enough homes to meet the needs of our country.
Right.
And over a decade now, we've been at a deficit of our building needs, and it's finally catching up to us.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
once COVID happens, it became this point where interest rates were so low that everybody became a buyer.
Right.
And
affordability.
Affordability.
So you increase that pool of buyers substantially.
And everybody who was at that point in time able to be a buyer became a buyer.
Right.
And now
and that's why home prices went up.
Yeah, it was shot up huge, but it became this huge vacuum, just sucked up
Yeah.
all of the last of the available inventory at the beginning of COVID. And now our buyers in 22, 23, even though the interest rates have shot up so high, they're still trying to buy.
Absolutely.
And the house prices are still going up.
Still going up.
Because there's no inventory and because there's
near 8% interest rates and home prices still went up year over year.
Yeah.
I mean, not quite 10% this year over year, but it was still substantial, 5, 6, 7% year over year with rates almost at 8%, 23-year highs and home prices still went up. So my question to people are, what do you think is going to happen when interest rates touch the 5s? I mean, we're already seeing it now that rates are in the 6s now. Like the amount of demand is increased. It's January. It was just a week ago, Arctic cold basically, and we had people making. There was multiple offers on homes. I couldn't even believe it. It was picking up that much. It was almost like it was spring already. And this goes back to what you were saying. This much pent up demand. So I'm trying to emphasize to our buyers, like, man, if you are if you're in a position to buy a home, like if you're ready for that, you've saved, and the only thing holding you back is you're trying to time the market. That's a terrible idea. Like, this is your opportunity. Now, buying a home is not for everybody, and I totally get that. But if you are in the market and that's what you want to do, like, now is the opportunity, because come summer, it's going to be nuts. It won't be quite COVID intensity, but if rates are in the 5s by the summer, which I see that in the horizon, I see that on the horizon. That is not just a prediction of mine, but there are economists that watch what's called mortgage-backed securities, which determine interest rates. They are predicting this. These are the guys that sit here and watch. They nerd out on this stuff and they watch it every single day, so they know, like, if they say that, then I'm gonna put some weight on that. You know what I mean? These aren't just gut premonitions, right? Like, these are based on data. And so I think if you see the rates in the 5s, like, you're going to see the market is going to explode. My question to people is, if every house right now has 3 buyers to it, right? Let's say now in summer every house has 10, 15 buyers to it. You go to a showing and there's a line at the door. You got to pick a number or something. What do you think that's going to do to home prices?
Well, I had that just this week. I was doing a showing. I booked it for an hour, and 30 minutes into the showing, I had people waiting at the end of the driveway.
Exactly. Think about that. That's in January. That's ridiculous. Like, that's insane.
In the middle, last week it was we needed a coat. This week we need a boat.
That's true. That is true.
And buyers are out there, trying to defeat this weather to find that home, because the inventory is so low.
That's how much, But you're right, that's the biggest issue, is like they just can't find the home. So it's like this list of pre-approved buyers just keeps growing and growing and growing. And so when what we're talking about, those rates in the 5s, what will that help? That will stimulate some not new construction, but it will basically motivate. Like I was telling you, there was a survey I saw that they did a survey of current home buyers or current home owners who have a home. They basically said if rates hit 5.5, 75% of them said they would be interested in selling their house and buying a new one. It would finally motivate them to let go of that 2, 3, 4% interest rate they got.
We call that the golden handcuffs.
Right, exactly. Yes, the golden handcuffs, for sure.
Interest rates so low, keeping people from moving.
Exactly. And that will create more inventory when they sell, but those people got to buy. And of course, they won't buy at the same price point. So maybe they sell their $200,000 to $300,000 house and buy a $300,000 to $400,000 or $400,000 or $500,000.
Or the downgrade because they're empty nesters.
But it's still one house on the market, one house gone, net zero, inventory. So, at the end of the day, you need more construction. You have to have homes built. Like, that's the only way you can increase that. But as a buyer, you just have to be a little more diligent. You got to get your financing in order, and you got to work with a good real estate agent who can keep their thumb on things for you and make sure that you've got everything dialed in. So when you do find something, you're not waiting too long to react, because you don't want to make an irrational decision. I do tell buyers that, man, you don't want to have buyer's remorse, but at the same time, you got to be really efficient in your decision making. So
and there are parts of the county that some people want to overlook, but they're actually, it just has this weird stigma to it that give it a shot, check out those communities. And
absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up.
There's potential everywhere that, as an investor.
You're talking about Radcliffe?
Well, Radcliffe or in northern parts of the county, because it seems like everybody wants to be in the southern half of the county, but the northern half of the county has so much potential in there.
It does, man. It's a sleeper for sure. I see it. I mean, I see it daily, weekly. I mean, I see people getting, first-time home buyers, new families buying houses in that $250,000 round sweet spot. Like they want to live in E-Town. Like they were set on E-Town, but they in their minds they thought they were settling in Radcliffe. And once they did, they found the right house. They're like, man, this is everything. This is everything we were looking for. They're in a good neighborhood, but there is a lot of this negative, stereotype around Radcliffe, which I think is completely fabricated or overblown. Let's put it that way. Every place has its negative areas or bad areas, but like anywhere else, there's awesome neighborhoods. Like it's a great community. It kind of actually boggles my mind, why it has that negative stereotype on it, because I think it is absolutely a sleeper in the housing market in Hardin County. Like if you're not opening your range up to Radcliffe, like that's insane to me. I get like if it's a driving thing, maybe it puts you in a situation where you got to make your commute is substantially longer, but that's where we start talking about you got to make decisions, right? Do you want to pay $50,000 more for a house to be closer to work, or do you want to pay $50,000 less for a house to maybe drive 10 minutes longer? And I think they've made the roads and everything, road system has improved dramatically where you can get, somewhere in Radcliffe to E-Town to your job or something,
And my office is in Radcliffe, and I have found from working in there that there is so much potential, so much overlooked by other agents. Man. They're all fighting them for Elizabethtown, and there's just so much going on in Radcliffe.
Absolutely,
there's so much growth. They've had brand new Starbucks, brand new Petco. They're tearing down the Red Mar to inspire investors to come in. And then we have Century Communities, which is a big builder. They have come in to Radcliffe to start a neighborhood. These corporations would not be investing into a region if they hadn't done their homework to understand the potential.
Starbucks, are you kidding me? You don't think they're spending millions of dollars on researching on where to put a location? Like 100%. So they see that that's an untapped market, like for sure. The potential is there, man. And so I know.
And I have 2 homes under construction right now for myself. And next week I'm closing on a lot of land.
That you self-funded, you're building, ground up, everything. You financed it. You don't have like investors. You're doing it all, and you bet on Radcliffe, basically. That's what it's exactly.
I wouldn't be putting my money into Radcliffe if there was not potential.
Absolutely. I mean, and so you literally put your money where your mouth is, and I mean, that's I love that.
There's a lot of potential in the northern half of the county.
I know
that's being forgotten. All the news is about.
I will say, some may call me a little biased because they truly know me. I grew up in Radcliffe, so you know what I mean. So I'm probably coming across with a little bias here. I do live in E-Town now, but I think that Radcliffe is absolutely a sleeper, man. And I think that you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't open your eyes up to that area to look at homes when you're looking to purchase a house. You know what I mean? And I think that there are some, there may be real estate agents who may dissuade people from looking in that area too. And I think they're doing their clients a disservice, man. Because there's a lot of great established neighborhoods. I mean, you got to think with like the percentage of, retired military, like these are just good, hardworking people, man. Like it's such a good community. So
and then I think just with all the news of Blue Oval, SK, everybody's their eyes are focused on the south end right
absolutely.
now. But don't forget to look north.
The shiny object. Yeah, exactly.
But you had mentioned multifamily, and there's a lot of that development going on.
Yeah, I think everybody can see some of that.
The rent prices back in early 2023, I wrote a column in News Enterprise predicting that in the year 2023, rent would go up in our community. 20%, I believe, is what I predicted. Rents are going up like crazy. It goes back to housing.
Are you a psychic? Or do you just pay attention to data trends? You know what I mean?
It goes back to housing inventory. At the beginning of COVID, when the housing prices shot up, a lot of landlords said, let me just sell my house.
Absolutely,
so
cash in that equity.
A lot of rental inventory just disappeared, and so what's available for renters went away too.
Right.
Which caused rent prices to go up.
Yes.
And the price of everything went up.
Decreased supply. Absolutely, man.
So we're seeing a lot of building of huge multifamily projects across Hardin County. So what's your opinion on that?
I think though we are, and in theory, you would think, okay, they're building all these units. This is going to help bring rent prices down, right? So theoretically, that should be the case. The problem is that we don't necessarily know yet. At least the apartment complexes that I'm seeing, things like on Shepherdsville Road, like
and Ring Road,
and Ring Road. Yeah. Like you can't. Are those? Am I wrong? Are those going to rent for $1,500 a month?
I
you see what I'm saying? And that's already priced most people out of the market already. I hear people. I talk to first-time homebuyers right now. Say, hey, we're finally considering this because our rent went from $800-900 a couple years ago to now it's $1,200, right? And so they're like, we might as well start considering. Buying a house is still going to cost more than that monthly, but you're at least going to be building equity and building generational wealth for your family and not getting somebody else rich, the landlord. So it's like time to fire your landlord, you know what I mean? And so, but all of these units you would think would bring the prices down, but the problem is if all of these units are set at $1,200-1,500, it's literally just setting a new bar for the rest of the community. And I think that's a high probability. I think they're building all the multi-units not for the current residents necessarily. I think these are proactive building for future residents that are coming for more higher paying jobs to work at Blue Oval and some of these other factories. So I don't necessarily think that they're trying to bring, lower priced housing and trying to bring, but it could. I don't know. We just don't know that yet, like where those are going to be, what the price points are on some of those units are going to be.
It's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. So I think that, supply, yes, should bring prices down, but in this case, if they could just easily say, hey, all of these are renting for $1,200-1,500 a month. And I think if you look at those ones, man, like I think it's hard to argue that those things
they look pretty nice on the outside.
I'm like, those are going to easily go for $1,500. They could be more than that. I don't know. So that that's the downside. But when you say multifamily too, I think something that some people might also that we may digress here a little bit, but like multifamily, like if you're a first-time home buyer or a buyer in the market, like I think something that's getting more popular in other markets are multi-generational living, right? So you buy like a 1-unit, 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit. So if you're a first-time home buyer, right? Like, and not even first-time home buyer, you can be second time. You can go buy a 4-unit with as little as 3.5% to 5% down payment, just like on a regular house, right? So you can have that small down payment. You live in one of the units, and then you rent the other 3 out, or you live in it, and then maybe your family lives in one of the unit. You rent you live there for 5 years, then you move on, buy another house. Now you've got a 4-unit rental, and now you're starting to build your real estate portfolio, and you only put 3 to 5% down payment on that house. That to me is like a missed opportunity. And I think we see that. I keep in touch with other people in other markets. You see that a lot in these other markets. We don't see as much here, and I don't know if it's maybe because we don't have a ton of supply of the 2-unit, 3-unit, 4 units, but I think that's kind of that when I hear multifamily, in my mind, that's kind of what I trigger there. But I don't know. Affordability is an issue here, big time. So I don't know unless we see a massive scale up of new construction. And when I say that though, like at the same time, we don't want shoddy builders, corporate builders building shoddy shelters, instead of homes on the market. And that, that to me, that's not the way that you want to do this.
Exactly. A builder that comes in and might build us 200, 300 single family homes. Right. And whip them out one every other month. We got one done, but the quality's
garbage. Yeah, exactly.
So you have a home, but you're not happy.
Yeah, so exactly. You don't want it, and that's a terrible place to be in. I can't, a first-time home buyer finally saved up, put a little down payment down, spent their life savings to get this small down payment, make this happen. Now they're in their house that's just filling them, it's full of problems. And I think that some of these large corporate builders that are moving into town are going to put they're going to put people in that situation. So I think sticking with a local, reputable builders is going to be the way to go. Might cost you a little more when you buy the house when you do that, but you're not going to have these large corporate builders. So
and then going back to you said buying a duplex all the way up to a 4-unit. That you just want to touch on that again really quick.
Yeah.
That can actually be done with no money down if you qualify for the VA.
Absolutely. I'm glad you touched on that, man. I don't even know how I kind of just flew right over that. Yeah, VA, like if you're a veteran, you can buy a 4-unit building with 0 money down. That is unbelievable. Because if you think about it, man, and if you're like, hey, I want to live in one and live in the other, well, why would I want to live with these other people? Man, this is short term. Just live in it for a year or two, and then next thing you know, you go buy another house. You can use your VA again and do 100% financing, or if you get PCS somewhere else, now you got a 4-unit in Kentucky that's literally a cash cow for you. You have somebody pay the mortgage off, and in 20, 30 years, you've got a 4-unit building that's free and clear. That's retirement. I mean, real estate.
So you got four paychecks coming in basically with those rents. And that's powerful right there.
Huge, man.
It goes into Anna's question there, that what can people do to start investing in real estate? Well, the biggest thing is just buy something. Even if you buy a home to live in.
Can't be you got to get it this perfect thing. I think that's the biggest issue I see with people right now is you got to find the balance. And I say this lightly, but you can't be too picky. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what I see. You don't want to buy something that's in bad shape, but it may not check all of your boxes right now. But we're in a position where we're going to see year-over-year price growth of 8 to 10% from 24 to 25. And then 25 to 26, you could still see 3 to 5. And then maybe 4 to 5, even year over year after that in this market. So in our market in Hardin County, we are insulated with home prices. And so if you buy something now, even though it's not perfect, right? Otherwise you're gonna miss out on all that equity opportunity. So buy it now, it's not gonna be perfect, live in it for 2-3 years, maybe rent that out, and then turn around and buy another house that maybe you want more, or sell that one, cash in the equity, and buy the perfect home or a better home to upscale. But you just can't, like I see people hey, I want all this stuff. Like you gotta have some balance there. You gotta be able to kind of negotiate with yourself on what you can do with and without, you know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest thing. But the thing is too though, you can't buy a house like you can't have nothing in your pocket. So like VA, even if you're VA and you do 100% financing, you still don't want to go buy a house when you have $100 in your bank account. You know what I mean? Like you got to have a little savings, man, because reason why is you're putting yourself in a bad position. If something breaks down or something,
heater goes.
Right, now you got to finance it or get a Lowe's card. So you just don't want, so even if you're doing a low down payment, so the biggest thing that I think people need to know is like they need to save, they need to figure out a way to save and save for the down payment, but not only the down. So when you have the down payment, you're gonna say, all right, I'm gonna use all this down payment. You want to use that after you use that small down payment. You want to be able to have a little bit left over in your bank account after you close, right? Just as an emergency safety net. So I think this is kind of one of the biggest issues that I see people investing in real estate, but knowing that, hey, I'm buying this house and that year over year, it's going to appreciate, I can't lose with this. So whether I want to sell it in 5 years or rent it, I mean, I got a winner basically, you know what I mean? So you can sell it, cash in your equity, buy a new home, move up, or B, you can rent it. And even with renting, you're not going to make money on the rental and versus the mortgage for the most part. Let's say you don't cash flow, right? Like you just want somebody else to pay the mortgage for you, right? The same way if you're a renter right now, like the landlord, he's just letting you pay the mortgage. He's probably not making much money monthly on you. He's using the money monthly he's making on you to pay for maintenance or put it into savings for maintenance. But at the end of the day, he just wants you paying that mortgage off for him. So he's got a free and clear asset when he retires. And that ultimately is what you can do and position yourself, especially young buyers, I think. So the best thing you can do is save. Like I think, like save your money so you can have a small down payment. If you're not a veteran for VA, you need 3 to 5% down, and then have a little bit left over. And in the base, you got to figure out a way to figure your finances and your budget. I know a lot of people say, man, I can't, milk, eggs, everything's expensive. And I totally get that. Trust me, I'm paying for that stuff too. But you got to find a way to carve it out of your budget to make it happen, know? So,
And you mentioned a great topic that rents go up. And people are getting frustrated. Rents go up and they want to become a buyer. And that's the beauty of home ownership is once you buy a home, you get a fixed mortgage. Fixed rate. The principal and the interest part of that mortgage is locked for the whole life of your loan. So for 30 years, if you get a 30-year mortgage, your mortgage on the principal and interest will not change. So if you think about what was the rent 30 years ago compared to what the rent is today, and if you say, well, man, the mortgage is a little bit more today than what rent is today, well, think of what rent will be 30 years from now.
Yeah.
And that mortgage will still be the same. Well, actually, 30 years from now, the mortgage will be gone.
Yeah, well, it'd be gone, but even better, it's the opposite, right? Like your mortgage, you're probably going to refinance. If you buy today, you're going to end up we're going to end up doing a refinance for you in 12 months from now, right? And so your payment's going to go down. It's literally the opposite. Where rent is going to go up next year. If you buy a mortgage this year, your mortgage will more than likely, I mean, no guarantee claims or anything, but the market is headed down, and interest rates are going to be lower. It's going to happen, and you're going to end up with a lower payment. And the people that are renting this year, their landlord's going to come back to them and say, hey, that $1,200 is now $1,300, $1,400, $1,500. So
and that's a short term.
Yeah.
You're going to see that.
Absolutely. That's short term. Yeah.
So speaking of refinancing, if someone wants to take advantage of buying a home now before the mad rush of buyers come back in,
right?
And from having the interest rates drop down, so I'm going to, let's say I buy today.
Yes.
When can I refinance? Let's say the interest rates were to drop next month, and I'm like, oh man, I should have waited.
Yeah. No, you can't beat yourself up over that, because that can happen.
Yeah. When can I refinance?
Basically, once you've made 6 monthly payments is the easiest way to think of that. There is a date time, but the easiest way to think is like, once I've made 6 monthly payments on my mortgage, I can actually qualify for a refi. And when we do a refinance, we do a 0 lender fees. So when you do the refi, and what some people don't even realize either is they think they're going to have to pay closing costs again out of their pocket at closing. When you do the refi, we can set it up where you have no money out of pocket at closing. Awesome. So the closing for the title and all that stuff's built in, but you can do a 6 payments. So it's like you don't have to have this buyer's remorse. You buy now, refi later, because that's what, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of buyers actually think that, well, I'm going to wait for rates to come down to buy a house. And I'm like, that is a terrible idea. And this is why, while you wait for the rates, home prices go up. So you lose equity, you pay more for the home. And so you end up, it's my favorite, this is the favorite way I like to put it, is you end up stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you're trying to wait for rates to get a lower rate and a lower payment, and you end up paying a higher home price for that house. And not only paying a higher home price, but you missed that equity that you could have gained, in that short time period. And with this year, it's a little more special than it was last year, because this year, when rates drop, just like COVID, look at this too, like the people that bought in 2020, early 2020, the first 3 months of 2020, before the COVID really, right. Think about that. Those people look like market geniuses, right? Like in retrospect, you're like, I bought my house in early 2020. I knew it was going to happen. Those people gained 20% year over year, and then the next year gained 10%. They owned their house for 3 years, got $100,000 in equity all of a sudden, and owned it for 3 years. These are first-time home buyers too. I saw it. And I'm thinking, in their minds, they look like a market genius. I think you're going to see that same thing this year. I think in the first few months of this year, the people that bought their house are going to be, it's not going to be as intense. You're not going to have the 20%, but it's going to be a similar concept, right? And you're going to have that. So if you buy your house now, make it happen. So if you're ready, if you have the savings and the money and the credit to be able to buy now, don't try to time it and wait for rates to come down because of this reason.
I got you. All right. And then, that's pretty powerful that we can bring our interest rates down. Because if we're talking about going from 8% down to 5%, and on a $250,000 mortgage, we're talking several $100s a month. Probably in savings on each monthly payment. And over the course of the mortgage, that could probably be thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars.
Just
insane.
Jumping on the top of my head here, I don't know the exact numbers.
Thousands of dollars, no doubt. Yeah, for sure.
All right, and then just moving on here, rental fraud.
I don't know a whole lot about that. That's going to be your specialty? So do I want to call it your specialty?
Just more of a public service announcement to people, but there is a systemic problem that's been around for years and years and years. It's just slightly changing on what platform we're on. But
Craigslist.
We're making our own
showing
website.
Your age.
And now it seems in our local area, it's on Facebook is what we're doing. We're kind of targeting the blue oval crowd that are, people are trying to move in here from outside of our area, looking for a place to live. And how this works is, let's say myself as the real estate agent, I'm just trying to sell a vacant home.
Right.
And so I take pictures of this vacant home, I put it on the multiple listing service called the MLS.
Right.
And it's just out there marketed for everybody to see. Well, some criminals, what they'll do is they'll just viral my photos, and then go over to Facebook, which we're seeing right now in our local community, but it could be Craigslist, it could be any platform really. And AOL, CompuServe, when it really did ourselves.
Blockbuster, we're going to talk about that next.
And what they'll do is they'll make a fake rental advertisement on one of these platforms and advertise the property for rent. And as a result, somebody is going to reach out to that individual and say, hey, I'm interested in that property, but I'm not in the local community. And they'll start
wire me the funds.
Wire me the funds. So, well, here's an application fee. Here is, send me the security
Never
deposit.
talk to you on the phone. It's all by messaging.
Yeah. So they set up this contract, they sign the lease, and they show up at the house, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
But a for sale sign. And so
that's unfortunate, man.
Community service announcement to you is do some due diligence.
Right.
If these are legitimately listed for rent, there will be no for sale listing out there. So check your favorite real estate websites, be it Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia.
Terrible. That sucks, man, that you gotta have to do all that, that people put that. But it's unfortunate. It does happen. So
I investigated fraud for 13 years.
You got the background of that.
And the schemes that people can think of, that if you can dream it, they can do it.
Unbelievable, man.
People will try to steal your money. So please, my rule of thumb is never send money to someone that you never met except through the internet.
Nigerian prince.
Well, you've never met this person. You've never seen the item. Don't ever give money to a person you've never met to buy something you've never seen. That's just my general rule of thumb.
Right, Thanks, Dad.
Discuss wire fraud. That's what you said. Well, then also with real estate.
Wire fraud. This is
wire
huge
fraud.
right now.
If you are trying to buy a home for real estate, let's say you are the lender, I'm the real estate agent, we have our buyer over here, and then the title company says, hey, buyer, you have to send us some money to, say $12,000 to, on the day of closing. So go ahead and wire it to us right now. Now, the internet, we like to think is private. I send this email from me to you, and nobody sees it. Going back to my law enforcement days, I actually did digital forensics. I was in the Army's, we had several names. It was the Computer Crime Investigative Unit, the Major Cyber Crime Unit. If you know Private Manning, it was that organization that investigated Private Manning. But your emails, if they are not encrypted, I like to describe it, encryption is like putting it in an envelope. But a normal email is like a postcard. Anybody who touches that postcard can read what's written on it. So if you send an email through the internet, anybody can read it. And so whatever routers it goes through, in essence, anybody can read it. And so there's criminals that are out there just watching email traffic, and they can understand the
ones that are financial related.
Seems like there is a transaction about to happen, and who is the buyer, and when is this about to close, and they can pretend to be the title company. Now, on an email, there's two different...
Send a message to a buyer.
They can send it as, and they can fake it, that you can fake an email to say they can come from anybody.
I get them all the time. I get the fake emails pretending to be title companies all the time.
Not just, and you can put in there that it came from somebody. It can come from anywhere in the world, and they just say, in the from line, say it came from this. And you can also put a different reply to. So if they try to hit reply, it doesn't even go back to the title company. But they may even put the title company in the reply, so it looks totally legit. And it's not, because they don't care about the email, it's the directions in the email. Wire the money to here. And this goes straight to the buyer. You and I, we're left out of this. I'm the agent, you're the lender. They're the ones that need to wire the money. And so the email gets sent to them. And so that is...
And it happens, man. I've heard, you hear this stuff when you're doing these continuing education classes, but like I've actually talked to some people, like agents and stuff that have been involved in situations where it actually went down.
Yeah.
Which is wild, you know, because you're just like, no way, this doesn't really, like, well, you know what happens, but you can't think it happens on a large scale as it does, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, what I really like with Bluegrass Land Title is they use a platform called Qualia.
Yes, yeah.
And Qualia just sends you a message.
Right.
You have a message.
Secure
and you have to get into their secure platform to understand what's going on, to get
a pain in the, if you're receiving it, you want to look at, if you're in a hurry, you're like, dang it, but it makes sense. Like I get the security aspect of it.
Yeah,
you know,
going back to the computers and security, whatnot, the more secure, the less easy it is. But
I know.
It's the world we live in.
Yeah.
But if you ever are in doubt about the directions you're getting from your title company about sending money to closing, call the title company at the known number you have for the title company.
Right.
Do not call them at the phone number in the email you received. All right, call them at the known number you have just to verify that that email is from them and these are the correct directions, so that you aren't sending this to the wrong people. Because again, it's like sending a security deposit on a rent check. Once that's gone, it's gone. I mean, I'm just the guy selling the house. Right. I wasn't the one telling you to sign a lease. Yeah. You know, and I mean, man, that's very unfortunate. And
it is money gone, man. That's crazy. Yeah.
So,
but yeah, thanks for that insight on that. With your background, that obviously helps too, being able to really know that how serious that is, you know. So, but
if you ever do that. Notify your bank, you know, try to get them to stop that before they release those funds.
Man, that's ugly.
All right, and finally, we're going to move on to some upcoming events that are happening in our community. So tomorrow night, the Radcliffe Small Business Alliance is hosting their gala, and this is a fundraising event that's going to aid local nonprofits in our community. So all the money that's raised from it is going to allow these nonprofits to keep the money in our local community. So specifically, it's going to go to the Family House Scholar. It's going to use that funds to be scholarships to ECTC. So it's going to help students continue their education there. And also it's going to go to the C&P Garage, which is a nonprofit in our community who helps veterans file their VA claims to get compensation for the VA from injuries that they received from their service in the military. So those are the two benefactors that are, or I guess kind of three through.
Right. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's all good things.
I believe last year they raised $40,000 for the nonprofits that were.
That's pretty significant for a small, small town, small event. Like that's a big chunk of change.
Yeah, it's incredible that so many people in the community came together and we raised all the money, and we had the mayors there. And
no, that's awesome, man. I love that. Yeah,
the judge executive,
awesome.
and
that's cool. Yeah,
all these community leaders. So that's going on tomorrow night. So check out the Radcliffe Small Business Alliance Facebook page if you're interested in going to that. And then also tomorrow morning at 8:30, Stan Mullins with the Modern Woodmen financial organization that he is trying to start up the chess club in Radcliffe again. This is something that he was doing pre-COVID, but due to COVID, it was kind of hard, and it just it died off. But now that life is really getting back to normal post-COVID, he's bringing this back. So at 8:30 tomorrow, it's going to be at 1812 North Dixie Boulevard, and that's actually my office in Radcliffe, near the intersection of Dixie Boulevard and Knox Boulevard at 1812 North Dixie. So anybody's welcome.
Is it at your office?
Yeah, it's going to be
so you just tell me
in my office. So it's at the Realtor World Knox Realty Group.
Yeah.
And anybody can come. You don't have to be a chess professional. It's going to be a fun social get together, play some chess. There are going to be some high-ranking chess people there. I have no ranking, so I'm probably going to lose a lot, and it'll make my son happy because he thinks I never lose. And we're going to have a lot of fun. And then the last thing is Hardin County is going to have a special election that we had the
juicy politics
representative from House District 26.
But I think you should notate too, I make this mistake too, but how the importance of local politics and local elections, local politics. A lot of us kind of tend to keep our eyes focused on federal politics, national politics, basically. In the federal government, I think a lot of people don't pay attention to local politics, especially younger people. You know what I mean? I'm not calling myself young at all, but you know what I mean? But I do the same thing. I tend to take my eye off the ball when it comes to local politics. So I think it's important that we emphasize that people really need to get a little more involved, myself included. So I'm talking to myself when I'm saying this, is get more involved and pay more attention to local politics, because of it actually does impact your life. Like you were saying earlier, whereas federal and national politics, they don't really have the big impact that local politics can. So I didn't mean to cut you off, man, but I think that was important.
It definitely is. A lot of people think of the presidential election and the senators, but really it's these local politicians that have the biggest impacts in our lives. And so we need to really focus on these local elections a lot more than the giant federal ones.
Absolutely.
But in the coming months here, Hardin County is going to have a special election to fill House District 26. Now, the two candidates for the Republicans and Democrats, and if there are any independents, haven't been announced yet, because this is brand new news this week for this election. So as these parties get their nominees for this special election, I just want to extend an invitation to them to come onto this show, so that each of them have their own platform here to share with the Hardin County why we should vote for them and what they stand for.
Yeah. Right on. No, I think that's a good opportunity. Yeah. So it's coming up quick though.
Yeah.
You got a couple weeks to put your campaign together.
Yep.
You don't even got that really. You better start today.
All right.
Yeah. Cool,
that's everything we have.
Yeah.
Just want to thank everybody for watching in today and contributing in the comments.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man.
All right.
Take care.
You